Have a question? Send me a voice message by going to anchor.fm/thesingersarsenal/message. That's anchor.fm/thesingersarsenal/message. I'd be happy to answer your vocal questions. And who knows, maybe your question could end up in a future episode of The Singer's Arsenal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the Singer's Arsenal. Singers only. Singer's Arsenal. Singers only.
Hey you guys, it's Kristal Cherelle from Indie Artist School. Welcome to The Singer's Arsenal. Today we're going to talk about how to sing notes longer. And not just single notes, also long phrases. This allows you to be able to sing a longer time without having to take a breath. This really helps you with any difficult phrasing where there's a lot of words in a song, or if there's a song with a lot of sustained notes like ballads and things like that. So one of the fundamental things to understand when you're trying to sing notes longer is learning how to breathe. Breathing is something that we all do, whether you're a singer or not, whether you've been singing for years or you've just started. Chances are there are some things that you're doing naturally when you're breathing that are actually correct. And then there might be some things that you're doing that are not so correct, okay? Number one, posture. Let's take a look at what it is you need to be doing with your posture to be prepared to take full breaths. So the first thing you need to do is stand upright, or you could alternatively sit down upright. But either way, you want to make sure that your spine is straight up and down. Another important aspect is making sure that your neck is in a neutral position. We don't want your head to be leaned forward or backwards or too far up or down. This is really going to come into play later on when the note is actually released. But if you start in a neutral position to begin with, it just helps eliminate a lot of problems. And then the next is your shoulders and chest. Let's lump those two together. You want to make sure that your shoulders are down and back and your chest is upright. We don't want it slouched down like this. We want an upright chest. Now it's not overly raised because that takes actual abdominal muscles to push it up. So we don't want that because that makes it a lot harder for you to take full breaths. What we want is the most relaxed position that your body can be in without doing anything artificial to manipulate your shape. Meaning if you have to use a lot of muscles to pull yourself up, then that's counterproductive in that case. So you just want to be as neutral as you are. Chest relaxed in a neutral position, shoulders down, neck neutral. All right, so we're so far so good. Everything's good. And then we're going down to the diaphragm. So breathing is step number 2. When you're breathing, you want to make sure that as you're breathing in, that you feel an expansion in your diaphragm. And this comes to play with your stomach as well. So you'll feel your belly expand like a balloon. And one good way to check in with yourself to see if you're doing it correctly is by placing your hands around your waist, right underneath your rib cage. And you should be able to feel a little bit of a squishy part of your muscles right underneath there. And what you want to do is make sure that as you're breathing in, that your hands are expanding outwards every time you take a breath in. You might also feel your thumbs being pushed outwards as well. This is a good indicator that you're using your diaphragm rather than your chest. It's going to take a few tries to get that right, just to make sure that you're taking your breaths in correctly. But once you got that down, then you're ready for the next step, which is really, really important. And we're actually going to spend the most time in this part. So this is support. Support is the most important thing when you're trying to sustain or sing notes for a longer time. So your breath is what carries a note. I'm sure you probably already knew that, but you're probably wondering how. A lot of things that people do when they first start out and they try to sing for longer periods of time is either they're shoving their stomach in like they're doing a sit-up or a crunch, and they cave their stomach in, or their chest is collapsing. Either way, that is the quickest way to run out of breath quickly and not support the note. While it might work for short bursts of air, it is not sustainable for long periods of time. Instead of just pushing your belly in, what you actually need to do is quite the opposite. What you want to do is utilize your pelvic floor, and it's going to feel like you're pushing out rather than in. It's the lower part of your belly pushing out. And you're going to notice the better you get at this, the less movement you're going to notice at your chest and shoulders when you do this. So practice a few ha's. Put your hand right underneath your rib cage like we talked about earlier. Wrap your hands around your own waist. And I want you to say, ha, ha, ha. So there are some things that you can do to help yourself expand how much and how long you're going to hold a note. While the ha helps you understand how to project and use your diaphragm, we're going to take it another step further to help you learn how to hold the notes longer. Take a breath in and take even more air than you can. And then afterwards, hold your breath for 8 counts. And then what you want to do is slowly release on a hiss. Just like that. So you just take extra breath in, hold it, and then slowly release. A good thing to do is have a metronome or something that can keep time for you, and see if you can extend the amount of time that you can do that hiss. Doing this repetitively allows your lungs to actually get a little bit more stretched out so that they can take more air in when you do take breath. And having a fuller breath capacity really does help you when it comes time to sustaining notes. So being able to take in more air will help you sustain notes as well. Now, the second part of supporting your notes is making sure that you're utilizing your breath to the best of your ability. And that's where this second exercise comes in. This one is called the sprinkler. I really like the sprinkler because it not only helps you understand how to project notes from your diaphragm, but also how to sustain them equally. You do the sprinkler by taking a deep breath in for 2 counts and hissing out for 8 in pulses. For equal time. So 8 pulses and 8 counts for the long hiss. Doing that really helps you engage your diaphragm. And the good thing about this is it's completely adaptable, and you can extend the amount of time you do your pulses as well as your hisses. And it can help you really control your breath. Now, one thing I will say, you might notice as you do these exercises, you might realize that you start off too strong and you run out of breath before the time is up. Well, what that means is you haven't quite figured out breath allocation, but these exercises are there to actually help you develop your breath allocation. So it's just like planning ahead. So instead of starting your hiss really strong, if you know you've got to hold it for a long time, what you can do is start off softly and just keep it consistent and really conserve the energy for the end. Okay, that's a good way for you to sustain notes. Now, you can graduate from hisses to ahs. And when you do that, you may notice some other things that come into play that may either enable or disable your ability to be able to hold notes for a long period of time. And that leads us into the next point, relaxing your tongue. Okay, so vocal placement is really what I'm talking about here. But if you have a lot of tension in your tongue, it makes it a lot more difficult to project notes, because when your tongue is tense, it can actually obstruct your airway and make you have to work twice as hard to get notes out. And nobody wants that. So make sure that your tongue is relaxed every time you're singing and that you're fully relying on your diaphragm projecting out. I want you to get in the habit of putting your hands around your waist and breathing in and filling up your belly with air and projecting even when you're singing. I know it might not look as visually appealing if you were on stage doing that, but when you're rehearsing and you're practicing and you're doing vocal exercises, it's the perfect time to get engaged with your body. The thing about sustaining notes and singing phrases for longer times is you have to understand what's going on with your body as it's happening. You got to pay attention to when your body's telling you, hey, I'm about to run out of air. Or when you notice that, hey, I don't know if I can keep up this pace, you want to adapt. You've got to be adaptable, you guys, because if you go in too strong and you're not able to sustain it, what ends up happening is you just stop too soon, or it might make you pitchy, or even worse, it might cause you to strain. So remember, start soft, get louder at the end so that you can allocate your breath. Okay, so let's get back over all of the things that you can use to help you sing notes longer. Number 1, posture. Make sure you're standing or sitting upright with your neck, chest, shoulders all in a neutral position. Number 2, you want to make sure that your breathing is from your diaphragm rather than your chest. Number 3, you want to make sure that you're supporting your notes with your diaphragm rather than your chest. You can always use your hands to help you remember that. All right. And then last but not least, you want to make sure that your tongue is relaxed and you're not obstructing your own airway. And throughout all of this, you want to be mindful of your breath allocation. Are you planning ahead? Start soft and get louder at the end. I hope these tips really work for you. Let me know how they go for you. Maybe if you've been working on a phrase or a particular part of a song that's difficult, you've been trying things and nothing seemed to work. Well, let me know how the sprinklers worked for you. Let me know how the breath expanders worked for you. When you took that extra breath in and you held your breath and slowly released your hisses, did it help you improve the length of time you're able to sing a note? Maybe it's not as long as you want right now, but is it progressing? These are ways you can really help yourself stay motivated as you're expanding your breath capacity and be able to strengthen your diaphragm so that you can sing notes longer. If you want to learn how you can transform your voice, go ahead and visit my website, indieartistschool.com. I give virtual one-on-one private lessons on Zoom. And I also have an online course called the Indie Artist Toolkit, where I teach you the beginnings of how to sing, as well as how to release your own music as an independent artist. That's indieartistschool.com. Also, you can book a free consultation there, so don't be afraid to click that Get a Consult button. Also, I want to thank you guys so much for supporting this podcast. I really couldn't do it without you. Some of you are even taking it another step further and you're donating. And for those of you who are doing that, thank you so much. If you'd like to donate to this podcast, go ahead and visit anchor.fm/The Singer's Arsenal/support. That's anchor.fm/The Singer's Arsenal/support. Well, you guys, until next time, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the singer's arsenal.